I was like,
The push to turn on. Now, as we are live. Okay.
Good morning. I now call to order this morning's meeting of the Board of Supervisors for the University of Louisiana System. Ms. Carroll, would you please call the roll?
Mr. Billy Busada, Dr. Jimmy Clark, Dr. John Condos,
Present.
Mr. Steve Davison, Ms. Lola Donahoe, Ms. Joe Leatherman, Mr. Al Perkins,
Here.
Mr. Dan Peterson,
Here.
Ms. Elizabeth Pierre,
Here.
Mr. Virgil Robinson,
Here.
Mr. Mark Lemore,
Here.
Ms. Christine Russell, Mr. Joe Salter, Mr. Brad Stevens,
Here.
Ms. Julie Stokes,
Here.
Ms. Bailey Willis. We have a quorum.
Thank you, Carol. At this time, we'll now have Mr. Perkins lead us in invocation as we begin this morning's business.
Stand, please. God of our weary years, God of our silent tears, thou who has brought us far on the way, thou who has by thy might led us into the light, keep us forever in the path, we pray. Let our feet stray from the places, our God, where we meet thee. Let our hearts, drunk with the wine of the world, forget thee. Shadowed beneath our land, may we forever stand, true to our God, true to our native land. Dear God, thank you for bringing us here today. Thank you for the celebration of camaraderie that we have. We pray that everyone keep in mind the purpose that we are here today, which is to serve over 90,000 students, faculty, staff, and to help bring Louisiana to a better place. God, let everybody keep an open mind and thoughts, sharing of ideas, and to have clarity in listening. Dear God, we thank everyone who has traveled here. We thank for the young men that are here being exposed to things that maybe they never got a chance to see. Let us hear their ideas and let them hear ours. In your name we pray, amen.
Thank you so much, Mr. Perkins. At this time, may I have a motion and a second to dispense with the committee deliberations and to meet as a committee of the whole? Moved by Mr. Romero. Second by Mr. Robinson. All in favor? Any opposed? Thank you. Also, I would like to advise that if any member of the audience would like to make a public comment on an agenda item, please use the comment cards located on the table and give them to the staff member. At this time, may I have a motion and a second to approve the minutes of our April meetings as well as ratify the actions taken at the May 16th Executive Committee meeting? Motion by Mr. Peterson. Mr. Condos. Peterson, sorry, we have a second. Second by Mr. Romero. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. That motion carries. Again, we are meeting as a committee of the whole and everyone can vote on all items. At this time, as you know, Ethan Estes' last meeting with us was on April 27th. Since that time, Ms. Bailey Willis was elected by her peers to serve as this year's student board member. She has already begun her service and has participated in the UNO search committee meeting, as well as the executive committee meeting in May. Welcome to the board, Bailey. I've appointed Bailey to the following committees: Academic and Student Affairs, Executive, Grievance, and Legislation. At this time, Mr. Michael Adams of DeQueer, Clark and Adams will administer the oath of office to Bailey. You guys would, Bailey, if you'd step down to the front.
Good morning.
I really.
United States.
Of the United States.
Constitution of law of this. And I will faithfully and impartially. Discharge and all duties which become upon me. And a member of the board of supervisors of the U.S. According to the best of my ability.
I'm sorry, at this time, I'd like to ask Bailey if she has any words.
Hello. I just want to say thank you to all my fellow student body presidents who have entrusted me with this position. Our goal is to be the voice of the students, and upon taking this responsibility as the student board member, I will be the voice of all of the students upon our 9 universities and just represent to the best of my ability. So thank you.
Thank you again, Bailey. And maybe, I don't know if all of you know that this weekend, Bailey was a contestant in the Miss Louisiana pageant, which was in Monroe. So congratulations on that as well, Bailey. At this time, we'll begin with our committee meeting, and we'll start with Academic and Student Affairs. Vice Chair Pearson, would you please address those items?
Yes, Madam Chairman. We have items on the Academic and Student Affairs Committee agenda. All of these items are consent items and require approval. Dr. Janine O'Rourke, Provost and Vice President for Academic Affairs, will provide the report. Dr. O'Rourke.
Good morning. Thank you, Supervisor Peterson. Good morning to you, Chair Pierre, President Henderson, and members of the board, and welcome to New Orleans. We do have 8 action items that require action on behalf of the board, and I'll walk you through each briefly. F1 through F3 pertain to Grambling State University. F1 is a request for approval to offer a Bachelor of Science in Governmental and Administrative Affairs. This is a 120 credit hour program to be offered online by the institution and has been designed to prepare graduates for leadership positions in the local, state, and federal government sectors. F2 is a request to enter into an MOU with Southern University at Shreveport, which will assist SUSLA's Associate of Applied Science students to easily transition into Grambling's BS in Engineering Technology. And the last item from Grambling, F3, is a request to enter into an MOU for educational cooperation with the Ghana Scholarship Secretariat. The proposed MOU will provide a pathway for students from Ghana to enroll in Grambling's Master of Science in Sport Administration. F4 through F6 refers to McNeese State University. F4 is a request to enter into an agreement with Lake Charles Charter Academy Foundation Incorporated. This agreement will allow for McNeese to provide teacher training and development for the 3 charter schools that fall under the purview of the foundation. F5 is a request for McNeese to enter into an MOU with Calcasieu Parish School Board. The purpose of this partnership is to increase the number of certified teachers for schools in the Calcasieu Parish that have been identified as struggling and are on the school redesign list. Agenda item F6 is a request from Nicholls State University for approval of their 2023 through 2028 strategic plan. At this time, I'd like to welcome President Jay Clune to the table so he can provide you with a little background information about the plan and the process that happened to prepare the plan. Good morning.
Thank you, Dr. Henderson, board. This is the Nicholls 2023-2028 strategic plan at time of experience Nicholls, Louisiana University. The strategic plan articulates key goals for the next 5 years and establishes the university path for the future. Our focus will align with our existing strengths and capitalize on emerging opportunities across our global community. Reviews the UL system for competencies and Louisiana process master plan in the border region formulating. This plan is a result of many hours of support work by members of the university community, from information gathering and analysis to engagement and thoughtful discussion by faculty, staff, students, alumni, and external constituents. I first want to give special thanks to Dr. Dan Norfolk for their tireless efforts in facilitating the process of which we have arrived at our strategic plan. I also want to thank Renee Hicks and Dr. David Mickey for their selfless efforts in leading their peers through this critical endeavor to set the course for our beloved university. I want to thank the many faculty, staff, students, and community members who gave generously of their time and talents to make this strategic plan that truly reflects our vision, vision, and values. We are Louisiana's coastal university, founded 75 years ago, 50 miles from the Gulf of Mexico, from the banks of the British Savior, 24 miles of the Gulf. We are the closest to the coast to the significant part of our service area, based in an existential crisis. We have the most polluted rise in sea level, subsiding and coastal erosion, the most gain in political restoration. It is our responsibility to continue to work to save our coast, our heritage, and our culture. The strategic roadmap that you will approve today allows our university to serve as a beacon of progress, collaboration, and academic excellence for the people of our service region. Some highlights of our plan: safety is a new core value in our strategic plan. Creating a holistically safe campus requires planning, execution, and ongoing communication campus-wide. As such, it is the priority that serves as our guiding principle in everything we do, both inside and outside the classroom. Foundational principles are included in this plan. These principles discuss across every goal and objective of the plan. Will provide a focus on stabilization and sustainability of our resources and consistent plan and communication for all our stakeholders. Our ambition is keeping our region strong and current and for future generations. We plan to grow our student body, increase revenue from alternative sources, and build social resilience through our strong research and partnerships, while positioning Nichols as an institution of choice for future students. The pillars for the experience Nichols strategic plan include student experience. We're devoted to helping students reach their potential and aspirations for the future. Through our efforts, our students will be prepared for life and career success. Employment, we are an institution with a caring community culture. We commit to support a strong workplace culture. Academic experience, we provide academic degree programs that meet current and future needs of our local region. We are committed to offering lifelong learning, reskilling, and upskilling to our community, continuing and professional education. Finally, community experience. We are committed to strengthening regional engagement by serving as a strong partner with community members and their organizations and companies. In closing, Experience Nichols, Louisiana Coastal University lays out an exciting and ambitious path to the future of Nichols State. I look forward to building upon our success in the next 5 years and beyond. Thank you, Board.
Do any members have any questions for President Clune? Thank you very much. All right, and the remaining two agenda items, F7 and F8, are requests from the University of New Orleans. F7 involves establishing an MOU with Hebei University, a public university located in China. The agreement would establish a pathway for HBU students to pursue UNO's Master of Science in Healthcare Management. And the last item, F8, is a request for approval of 2 MOUs with Putan University, another public university located in China. The 2 agreements would encourage PTU students to pursue UNO's BS in Healthcare Management and their MS in Healthcare Management. Supervisor Peterson, that concludes all items for academic and student affairs.
Thank you, Dr. O'Rourke. If more of the members require further clarification, I recommend approval of items F1 through F8. May I have a motion in a second? Motion by Mr. Perkins. Second by Mr. Stevens. Any questions or any questions or comments from the board? If none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion is approved. Is there any other business to come before the committee?
No, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. Next items to be considered are athletics.
Okay, thank you. Next, we'll have Supervisor Perkins, who will address the items under the Athletic Committee.
Morning, everyone. We have 15 items on the athletic committee today. All are consent agenda items. Mr. Bruce Janay will provide a brief overview of these items.
Thank you so much, Mr. Perkins and members of the board. The first item is item G1 from Grambling, revised athletic home game complimentary ticket policy. Several changes have been proposed, which resulted in the issuance of less complimentary tickets for football, basketball, and baseball. A detailed schedule of those tickets were given to you as part of your board package. Item G2, Louisiana Tech requesting approval of a contract with Eric Wood, currently the Vice President and Director of Athletics. Item G3 to G5 from McNeese, requesting approval of contracts with Gabrielle Moore, head women's tennis coach, Heath Schroyer, Director of Athletics, and Sasha Karolov, Director of Volleyball and head indoor volleyball coach. Items G6 to G7 come from Nichols, a contract with Tevin Sowler, head men's basketball coach, and Mike Silva, head men's baseball coach. Item G8 is from Northwestern, approval of a contract with Christopher Bertrand, a new head baseball coach. Item G9 from Southeastern, contract with their head golf coach, Lawrence Elaine. And item G10 is from Southeastern. We have a number of contracts for assistant coaches, Alana Freeman, assistant softball coach, Catherine Goodwin, assistant softball coach, Jack Hartley, assistant women's soccer coach, Kenneth Lee, associate women's basketball coach, Charles Linford, assistant track and field coach, Van Kyle Rohn, associate men's basketball coach, and finally Colin Wilson, associate women's volleyball coach. And the remaining items are G11 through G15 from the University of Louisiana at Monroe, approval of contract and memorandum of understanding with Tim Baldwin, head men's golf coach, Mr. John Hartwell, who's the athletic director, Rachel Pollock, head women's golf coach, Yvonne Alaro, head tennis coach, and William Roberts, head women's soccer coach. And those are all the consent items I have, Mr. Perkins.
Thank you, Mr. Janae. These agenda items have been reviewed by the staff and are recommended for approval. Of course, if any member has any question or wishes to discuss this item, please let me know. Are there any questions, comments from the board? I do have one question on G9 on Southeastern, Mr. Janae. I see this is a contract with the head golf coach. This is their men's golf. They only have a men's golf program.
Yeah,
right?
just men. Yeah.
Do you know there's any plans for any women's golf program in there? And if so, would that lead that coach Lawrence Allen with possibility to be a coach for that program if that would happen?
I'm really not sure. Maybe we can get Dr. Wainwright or Dr. Henderson to speak.
Yeah, it was a poke at you to poke at them. It was a poke at you to poke at them. Didn't know there was any plan.
So Supervisor Perkins, I think it would be worth our while, especially with Bruce, as we have moved the audit functions to our new internal auditor who will be in their final stages of interviewing, I think, and we'll be having it. That one of the purposes for that was for Bruce to take on a more ingrained role in coordinating some of the athletic activities going around the state. I think one of the first order of business for him is to work with athletic directors to do a feasibility study on offering women's golf at one or multiple of our institutions. As you know, that game has become extraordinarily popular, especially among women. And if you're comfortable with that, I would love for him to start working on the report and maybe report back at the next board meeting.
Yeah, yes, Dr. Henderson, I think that's a great idea. Mr. Janae, will you be able to report back for the next meeting on that?
Yes, sir. Sure will.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bruce.
Are there any other questions or comments from the board? Any other comments from the public? If no one requires any clarification on the consent agenda items, I have a motion and a second for approval. I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
And have a second. All in favor of the item, all in favor say, I'm sorry, is there any discussion? All in favor say aye. Any opposed? The motion passes. Do we have any other business at this time? If not, that concludes the business of the athletic committee. We'll next move on to the committee's audit.
That's correct. At this time, Ms. Stokes, will you please address the item on the audit committee?
Yes, we have one item on the audit committee today. That is a discussion item. Mr. Bruce Janet will provide a brief overview.
Thank you so much, Mrs. Stokes. We have a one item that's pretty standard, Universal Louisiana System report on internal and external audit activity for the period of April 24th to June 18th, 2023. This week, each of you should have received a listing of internal and external reports completed by various auditors since our last board meeting. Also included in the summary as usual are our internal audits that are currently in progress and a follow-up timetable to ensure recommendations made in prior reports are implemented. This is a report only and no action by the board is necessary.
Do we have any other business at this time? If not, that concludes the business of the audit committee. Do we have a motion to adjourn? Someone? Thank you. We have Supervisor Robinson who motioned. Do we have a second? And we have new Supervisor Willis who has seconded. The next committee is facilities planning.
Facilities, before we take up any consent agenda items, may I have a motion and a second to approve the approval to remove agenda item I2 as requested by Louisiana Tech? I have a motion. Do I have a second? I have a second. All in favor say aye. Any opposed? The motion passes. We now have 14 items on the Facilities and Planning Committee that are all consent agenda items. Mr. Bruce Janet will provide an overview of the agenda items by campus.
Thank you so much again, Mr. Perkins. Appreciate you serving multiple roles today.
No problem.
I would like to start off by noting that President Clune, President Savoy, and President Niccolo have provided detailed justification to support the names that are on today's agenda. Our first item is from Louisiana Tech. Item I1, requesting approval into a ground lease with their foundation, Louisiana Tech University Foundation for the purpose of installing decorative brick and metal fence and landscaping at the Jim Mize Track and Field Complex and Practice Field. And also Louisiana Tech wanted to reaffirm the designation of the name of the Jim Mize Track and Field Complex. The university and the foundation estimate the value of improvements to be approximately $550,000. Item I3 from McNeese, requesting approval, execution of leases between the university and Cowboy Facilities Incorporated for the purpose of the university student housing facility. The corporation has previously hired a private manager to operate and supervise their student housing facilities. Now what the university is requesting is to enter into additional leases to permit the corporation to extend the same management arrangement with the current manager in order for the university to benefit from economies of scale of all their housing being managed by one group. Item I4 for McNeese. The university currently owns certain property on the north side of McNeese Street on the southwest corner of the McNeese Forum. The city of Lake Charles has a Lake Charles Fire Department training station, which is currently unoccupied. McNeese wants to do an exchange of land so that they can acquire the fire station property for the purpose of expanding its campus, and the city desires to acquire the University Commons property for the purpose of developing a new central fire station. Item I5 from McNeese, enter into a new land lease with the Eucharist Labyrinth Revocable Trust for use of pasture land near the McNeese State University Foundation Fuller Forum property. The lease that they previously had has since expired. The university would like to execute a new lease, starts on July 1st, 2023, terminates June 30th, 2026. Item I6 from Nichols, they want to do some naming in the Cheramay IO Hall. Rooms 152 will now be requested as Normality Donapudi Auditorium, and rooms 130 and 134 as Dr. Sarah Donapudi High Fidelity Simulation Lab. Item I7, requests from Northwestern, and they do have a couple of these with Demons Unlimited Foundation. The first is for a 4-month ground lease to do some renovations to Prather Coliseum. Project cost is approximately $90,000. Item I8, also from Northwestern, enter into a 7-month ground lease with the foundation for renovations to the softball complex, specifically the hitting cage. Item I9, University of Louisiana at Lafayette, requesting approval to self-fund a project using facility planning and control for the Building 60 cage wash and non-humate primate housing facility that will be located on the New Iberia Research Campus. Available funds for construction of this project are budgeted about $4.7 million. Item I10, University of Louisiana Lafayette, enter into a 12-month extension of the control and operation of the Cajun Dome with the Lafayette City Parish Consolidated Government. Some of you may remember at our last board meeting in April, the board authorized a 3-month extension, but after talking to the city, parish government, and UL representatives, they have now asked for a 12-month extension that would take them through July 31st, 2024 to get the final management agreement and everything worked out. Item I11, University of Lafayette, Louisiana Lafayette, request approval to name a large classroom in the new student-centered engineering building, the Atchafalaya chapter of the American Petroleum Institute classroom. This organization has given a generous gift of $330,000, and the naming of this classroom would be for a period of 10 years. Item I12, University of Louisiana at Lafayette. A lease was executed in 1980 between the university and Phi Nu Chapter House Corporation of Delta. Now the lessee, which is the House Corporation, desires to transfer its interest in the property to an LLC, and The reason they have to come to us because in the lease in paragraph 6, it requires that any transfer that our board has to approve. Item I-13, University of Louisiana at Monroe, requesting approval to demolish 2 buildings, their talent search house and the Delano house, and both buildings are approximately 30 years old, have lost their structural integrity and no longer a viable location to house any type of program. Item I-14, University of Louisiana at Monroe, requesting approval to execute leases between the board on behalf of the university and the University of Louisiana at Monroe Facilities, Inc. to finance athletic improvements on their campus and related athletic facilities. Total project is approximately $6 million that'll be paid for by bonds that are sold through the Louisiana Local Government Environmental Facilities and Community Development Authority. And finally, I-15 is from University of New Orleans. They're requesting approval to dedicate a limited area of green space on the campus between the University Center and the Recreations and Fitness Center as the Dr. Gregory and Mary O'Brien Gord. Dr. Gregory O'Brien was the previous chancellor. At this time, Mr. Perkins, these are all the consent items I have. I do want to note that some of the presidents and staff are in that audience, as well as our outside legal counsel, and also Matt Kern with Jones and Walker, should the board have any questions.
All right. All of these items have been reviewed by the system staff and outside legal counsel and are recommended for approval. Of course, if any member have any question or wish to discuss any of these items, please let me know. Are there any questions or comments from the board? I do have a question going to I-4 McNeese. Is this basically a proposing to swap properties?
Yes. It will be a swap, and they have done appraisals on both, and it has to be required by law that it has to be an equal exchange. It will be equal in value.
Okay. Any other questions or comments from the board on any of the items? Any comments from the public? If no one requires any further clarification of the agenda items, may I have a motion and a second for approval of items I-1 and I-3 to, I-1 and I-3 to I-15? Have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All in favor say aye. Any opposed? The motion passes. Do we have any other business at this time?
No, sir.
If not, that concludes the business of the Facility and Planning Committee. Next, we have finance.
Thank you, Mr. President. Madam Chair. At this time, our Finance Committee will convene. We have 2 consent items, 1 item for discussion. Mr. Mesh and Ashley will present those items to us.
Thank you, Mr. Romero. J1, University of Louisiana request for approval of a cooperative endeavor agreement with Oshner Clinic Foundation, DBA, and Oshner Health and Lafayette General Health System Incorporated, DBA, Oshner Lafayette General. This cooperative endeavor agreement between the university and Oshner will provide funding for the University Accelerated Baccalaureate of Science in Nursing program. The program will be named the UL Lafayette OLGA BSN program. Oshner agrees to provide the university with funding of $358,420 per year to cover the cost of faculty, staff, and operations for each of the first 3 classes of the UL Lafayette OLG ABSN cohort in the ABSN program. Oshner will also provide the university with funding to cover the cost of tuition for up to 70 students enrolled in the program at a rate of $355 per credit hour for the first 70 hours of nursing courses required by the ABSN program. Total funding to cover the cost of tuition for each student enrolled in the program is $24,850. Beginning in 2023, the university will use its best efforts to enroll the number of AB and SN program students agreed upon by Oshner and the university to commence their didactic and clinical educational activities in nursing courses in May 2024. The university may only enroll ABSN program students who have committed by written agreement to employment with Oshner for a minimum of 3 years after graduation from the ABSN program in exchange for the Oshner Clinic Foundation's payment of the student's tuition to the university. The cooperative endeavor agreement will terminate when 70 students have completed the program or on December 31st, 2029, regardless of whether students have completed the program. J2, University of New Orleans request for approval to amend and extend a lease agreement between the university and Follett Higher Education Group for the operation of the university bookstore. On July 1, 2013, UNO entered into a 10-year lease with Follett for Follett to provide bookstore services to the university campus. The agreement requires Follett to make commission payments to UNO, provide funding for facility improvements, equipment maintenance, textbook scholarships, discounts, and other financial consideration in exchange for the universities providing a 10-year facility lease to Follett and implementing the Follett Access Program, which was introduced with Amendment 3 to the agreement. UNO now requests approval to amend and extend the original agreement. The amendment would exercise the 5-year renewal option as provided in the original contract, plus extend the agreement for additional 5 years beyond the renewal. The amendment effective date would be July 1, 2023 and expire on June 30, 2033. The extension will remove approximately 5,500 square feet for bookstore operations from 11,245 square feet to 5,745 square feet and return the space to the university for the university's use. The university will increase the surcharge for the Follett Access Program from $5 to $7 per student credit hour. The Follett Access fee would remain the same at $20 per student credit hour. In total, the student's cost for the required course materials will be $27 per credit hour per semester. As financial consideration to the university, Follett will pay commissions at a rate of 14% of gross sales of general merchandise, 11% of gross sales of course materials, and 7% of gross sales of digital course materials. Follett will provide $400,000 for renovations and improvements of the leased facilities. And Follett will provide $100,000 one-time signing bonus to be used at the university's discretion. This completes the consent items, Mr. Romero.
Thank you, Mr. Mesh. Items J1 and J2 have been reviewed by system staff and reviewed by system council and are recommended for approval. Do we have any questions from the board at this time?
I just want to make sure I understand correctly. So students cannot enroll into this accelerated program unless they sign a 3-year contract for employment,
That's correct.
full-time employment with Oxford.
That's correct. They're making a financial commitment to the students. And so they would, the reason is they need nurses in their hospitals.
And just to clarify, students can enroll in an accelerated BSN program at UL Lafayette, just not the one that's funded by Oshner. That's the key. Yes, ma'am.
That's right.
Any other questions from the board? Any questions from the public? Hearing none, may I have a motion and a second to approve items J1 and J2. I have a motion from Mr. Condos. Second by Mr. Stevens. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. One other discussion item. Mr. Mesh.
Item J3 is our discussion of fiscal year 23 third quarter financial reports. The first report in your packet is a comparison of budget to actual revenues and expenditures through March 31st, 2023. Campuses submit their quarterly financial reports to the system, and they provide explanations when revenues have not reached budget estimates and when expenditures have exceeded budget estimates. For revenues in total, state appropriations are on track with budget. Self funds are usually drawn towards the end of the fiscal year. Other revenues are only 54% of budget, and this includes excess budget that has not been needed yet. For the expenditures, other charges and interagency transfers were 93% of budget, which is expected because this includes scholarships, which are mostly recorded by the third quarter of the year. The second report is a current year to prior year comparison of actual revenues and expenditures through the third quarter. The campuses provide explanations for any large or unusual variances. For revenues, the increase in general fund revenues is consistent with the increase in budget from fiscal year 22. The decrease in total student fees is consistent with a decrease in enrollment, and other revenues increased from fiscal year 22 mainly because of HERF monies, F&A recoveries, and increases in interest income. For the expenditures presented by function, institutional support expense increased from the prior year, mainly due to the timing of insurance distributions, increases in IT-related costs, and salary increases. The next report is the auxiliary operations and athletics report. Campuses also report results of their auxiliary and athletic operations, which is the next report included. It shows the auxiliary and athletics revenues, expenses, and changes in fund balances projected through the end of the fiscal year. Campuses expect approximately $260 million in revenues, $295 million in expenses, and $19 million in net transfers in, which would result in an overall current year operating deficit of approximately $15.5 million and an ending positive fund balance of approximately $35 million. The overall projected deficit increased by approximately $5 million from the previous quarter. The next report shows the athletic deficits by campus. The projected current year and cumulative athletic deficits remained about the same from the prior quarter's projections. The following table shows the projected current year and cumulative fund balances for fiscal year 23. With the reports, campuses provide certifications of certain assurances about their operations, and they did not note any areas of immediate concern. All certifications and reports are available for review in our system office, and this is a report only. No action is necessary. And this completes my report, Mr. Romero.
Thank you, Ashley. Well done. Any questions on this presentation? Hearing none, this should conclude. Any other business to come before the committee? Hearing none, this will conclude the business of the Finance Committee, and we'll roll to personnel. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Mr. Peterson will now address the Personnel Committee items.
Thank you. Good morning again. We have 5 items on the Personnel Committee agenda, and Ms. Keisha Neal they're all up for a consent agenda, and Ms. Neal will present an overview of those items.
Thank you, Mr. Peterson. Good morning, Chair Pierre, Dr. Henderson, and board members. Item K1, Grambling State University's request for approval to appoint Mr. Theodore Collier as Vice President for Research and Sponsored Programs effective June 20th, 2023. K2, McNeese State University's request for approval to appoint Ms. Virginia Ann Warner as Dean of the College of Nursing and Health Professions effective June 1st, 2023. K3, Nicholls State University's request for approval to appoint Mr. Jonathan Terrell as the Vice President for Collegiate Athletes and Athletics and Athletic Director effective June 22nd, 2023. K4, Northwestern State University's request for approval to appoint Dr. Miru Deep as Interim Dean of the Gillespie College of Education and Human Development effective July 1st, 2023. K5, University of Louisiana at Lafayette's request for approval to appoint Dr. Chad Parker as Interim Dean of the College of Liberal Arts effective May 15th, 2023. Mr. Peterson, that concludes the items to be considered today.
Thank you, Ms. Neal. These are all been recommended by staff for approval. Are there any questions, comments, or discussion that the board would like to have on any of the appointments? Hearing none, may I have a motion? Motion by Mr. Romero, seconded by Mr. Robinson. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Ms. Neal, is anyone of the appointees present in the room?
No, sir, no one is present today.
Okay, thank you. That concludes the business of the Personnel Committee. I'm sorry. Dr. Brookhill.
Chairman Pierre and board members, I'm excited to introduce you to Dr. Ann Warner as our new dean of the College of Nursing and Health Professions. Dr. Warner has been with us since 1993 and has been a vital member, a member of the development of our College of Nursing over the years, and she's played an instrumental role, and we look forward to her leadership. Dr. Warner.
Thank you. I'm so excited to have this opportunity to continue to lead the College of Nursing and Health Professions. The last 3 years in Southwest Louisiana have been unprecedented in the challenges that we faced, but I feel that we've been very successful given the efforts of the faculty and the staff, and most especially the students who've persevered through a lot. And I look forward to continuing to lead, and no telling where we'll end up going.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Brookhill.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, that concludes the business of the Personnel Committee.
Thank you, Mr. Peterson. We'll now move to our last committee, which is legislation. Vice Chair Stokes, will you please present those items?
You have the script I gave you. It's. I got it. It's, yeah, it's just, we're good. It's done.
I think Cammie will address those items.
Absolutely. Yeah, this is just a report. So I'm going to start where it all ended with the budget. It was a long session. We did very well in capital outlay. Our system ended up with more than $182 million in priority one, 12.2 million in state general fund, 719 million in priority 5, and 4.2 million in priority 2. I know we talked about UNO projects last meeting. 3 of those projects did make it into the bill. And so we're very excited about that after a couple of years of them not having projects in. HB1 and the budget, there are still questions. In fact, we were in Senate Finance on Monday. That doesn't typically happen after session, but to go through the budget bills, and we were able to discuss and better understand where the budget is. But there were significant investments in higher education, additional 58.2 million just for our system's overall budget over last year's appropriation. Much of that is to fund faculty and public safety officer pay raises. The legislature chose to pay off nearly $700 million of the unfunded accrued liability debt. We expected that to offer some relief to our direct payment this year. As it stands today, it doesn't seem like that's going to happen, but we're still, like I said, working through it. And we are very appreciative of the investments that the legislature provided to our institutions. But I will mention there are many of our requests for some budget stabilization, some IT infrastructure that did not make the final budget. But the work is not over. We're still waiting on the governor. I think next week we'll have his vetoes. We don't expect to be a lot of changes in our budget, but we'll see where that lands. And we're also pursuing a couple opportunities through other funding sources and are hopeful to capture some additional dollars for institutions for those 2 areas that I mentioned. Quick shift to policies. We talked about some of the instruments that could be perceived as problematic for institutions throughout the session. Several of those bills didn't move, including the tenure bill that we talked about at one point. We were also able to elevate the conversation around diversity, equity, and inclusion through testimony on a House resolution that failed to get out of the committee, but it was a great opportunity to talk about the work we're doing in our system, the work we're doing next door right here. And so that was a very good opportunity. ULM's Doctor of Physical Therapy tuition and fee that y'all approved last board meeting, that was codified through legislation. So that is done. We're no longer allowed to use TikTok. I know y'all are probably upset about that. Y'all are big TikTokers. The bill says that no state agency can use TikTok. They did put a provision for educational purposes. So any faculty who use it for research will still be able to access it through our networks, but we'll no longer be able to use it for marketing. The final policy is not written yet. It's being written by the Office of Technology Services. So we'll see where that lands too. Other exciting things, we created the Louisiana First, the Foundational Integrated Research System for Transformation at UL Lafayette's Blanco Policy Center. It charges the center with really collecting and analyzing data from various agencies to really get a better sense of where we are as a state and be able to make more sound policy decisions. And then finally, we finished the legislation designating the University of Louisiana Maritime Academy, which is an important step toward federal designation that we hope to get. And Dr. Henderson is going to talk a bit about that in his report. And that really concludes my reporting, unless you have any questions. It was fun.
Okay, thank you. I think that report was for
First, I just wanted to thank Ms. Geisman and apologize to the chair, but I really didn't understand what I was, but I do have a question.
Yes.
Real quick. How did the University of New Orleans do in HB2? Did they get the funds that they had requested?
Yes. So we had 3 projects that made it in. You've got the several roof repairs, the hotel and restaurant and tourism program, and the track. So all 3 of those projects made the bill.
That's wonderful. Thank you.
Okay.
If I could add to that, though, the HB2 is currently $300 million in excess of the state's ability to fund it. 129 million of that is in priority 1. And so they can't get to priority 2 until they get all of the priority 1 projects.
So it was going to. So it was ranked as priority 2.
Yes, so there is some funding in priority 1. There's a lot in priority 5.
Mm-hmm.
But with priority 1 already overextended, there are some mechanisms that they can put in place to probably get most of those fully funded. The priority 2 projects likely will not be funded this year, but they're in the bill.
Yeah.
Once they're in the bill, that's a good place to be. It's better to be in the bill than out of the bill.
Well, at least we have our nose in the door, so to speak.
And those projects received, a couple of them received some state general fund as well. So I think all 3 of them did, at least 2 of them did.
All right. Well, thank you, Cammie. I think that report was for information only. Are there any other questions on her report? Okay. If not, that concludes the business of that committee. At this time, we'll move to the president's report. Dr. Henderson, would you please give your report?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Board members, you were emailed campus personnel actions and summer pay schedules for review. The staff has reviewed all of these requests and recommends approval. Madam Chair, we'll need a motion and a second.
Second, Stevens.
Second, Mr. Stevens. Is there any questions, any discussion? If not, any opposed? Okay, thank you. That matters stands approved. Those matters.
Thank you very much for that. If you remember at the last board meeting, we distributed a proposed change to our board rule so that you could review and be ready to vote today. There's a copy in your folders as well. This rule puts our transfer admissions policy in the right disposition that is now aligned with our board policy. And if there's no questions, we'll need a motion and a second to approve that revision.
I have a motion. Mr. Robinson, a second.
Second, Stevens.
A second by Mr. Stevens. Are there any questions, any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Any opposed? Thank you. That motion carries.
Madam Chair, I would would give me liberty to recognize two people that are joining us today that have had a significant role in the history of our system at much different times. The first is a gentleman whose signature is on my diploma from Northwestern State. He was the president of the Board of Trustees of Colleges and Universities, and the founder of the University of Louisiana system, Dr. James Kaye. Dr. Kaye, thank you for your presence today. He is now the executive director of the Patrick J. Taylor Foundation, and we appreciate your support of higher education throughout your career and today. On the other end of the spectrum, we have a former board member who hired me. And so I kind of like him, but he is now an attorney, a practicing attorney here in New Orleans. Antonio Torres, welcome back. Welcome home. We have been blessed to have some extraordinary student board members, and Antonio certainly is in those ranks. We deeply appreciate you. So in terms of personnel actions, we have a new addition on our system staff. Rich Vath has joined the team as the Director of Research and Advancement. He brings a wealth of knowledge and scholarly research and grants, and he'll lead the strategic planning and execution of research and advancement initiatives across the system. We're happy to have Rich and look forward to his contributions. Rich, stand up. Welcome to the team. Claire Norris claimed that she had too much work for one person, and I thought, there's 24 hours in a day, but still she needed some help, and Rich is providing that expert help. Our third annual Bridging the Divide summer series is underway. The system's 5 content experts are leading professional development programming in the areas of financial literacy, mental health, grant writing and research, online teaching and learning, and open educational resources. The 10 weeks of programming offer both synchronous and asynchronous online learning opportunities for faculty and staff. The program schedules and descriptions are available at ulsystem.edu. We appreciate our content experts under the leadership of Dr. Katie Dawson for assembling such thoughtful programming for the summer. Katie, thank you very much for your leadership of that. On the UNO search, as you know, the search for president of the University of New Orleans is underway. The inaugural meeting was held in May on the university's campus. The advertisement has been posted on various websites, and the preferred application date is August 4th. The committee will meet on August 17th to discuss confirmed candidates and select semifinalists to interview during the week of August 28th. We plan to have a special board meeting on September 14th to interview finalists and select a new president for UNO. We hope to have a new president in place by the beginning of the spring semester. We're deeply thankful for Dr. Janine O'Rourke, who's agreed to serve as interim president beginning July 1st. And Dr. Kedrick Nicholas is already at work helping manage some of the transition, doing institutional review. He showed me a sneak peek of the webpage that he has developed. And I'll just say I was very, very impressed. So, Ked, thank you for your work on that. The two of them are working very closely together, and we expect UNO to transition nicely to their new leadership. Now, this morning, several of you heard from the latest Management and Leadership Institute class. I know if you're like me, you were impressed by the breadth and the depth and the small print on their PowerPoint slides. A lot of connectivity there. The future is bright for our institutions because of the leadership that we're developing on our own. And I'm so grateful for these ML&I participants for sacrificing to develop themselves and advancing our institutions. Since its inception in 2017, Dr. Ayub has done an incredible job leading this program. We have now 117 Management and Leadership Institute alumni. It's amazing. We've witnessed more than 50 of these alumni promoted after completing the institute, including a provost, 5 vice presidents, 15 deans, and 3 faculty senate presidents. We have lost a few, but when it comes to training and development, you can either train people and lose them or not train them and keep them. And so you have to expect that you're going to have some people who seize opportunities. I think that is a testament to the value of the development of that program as well. One of those, though, that we did lose, we lost to Congress, and that's Congresswoman Julia Letlow. And so we'll forgive her for that one. We appreciate the time and energy of our MNLI alum who stay connected. They continue to give to the program and to each other. As we celebrate the completion of cohort 6, we're excited to announce cohort 7. They will begin meeting in August, and we look forward to their growth and development. At this time, I'm going to call forth Dr. Erica Calais, the Vice President of Student Services, Safety and Resilience, to introduce our talk about incoming SGA presidents and provide you with the Title IX update.
Good morning, and thank you, Dr. Henderson. Thank you, Board Chair Pierre and board members. I would like to start by just giving you a brief update about power-based violence and where we are. Just as an update on the spring power-based violence report, we're continuing to train responsible employees and confidential advisors. If you recall, in October, the UL system had a 99% completion rate of employees trained. Recently, the training timeframe has been changed to run from January through December of each calendar year. While the spring report only shows employees trained from January 1 through March 31st, which is 74%, the October report will show a greater completion rate as more employees will be trained over the course of the next few months. Since the last report, we have received 23 formal Title IX complaints. There has been an increase of 13 formal reports received compared to the spring semester of 2022. So we believe that continued training, prevention education are key components to changing the cultures on our campuses in this area. Speaking of training, in an effort to satisfy the MOU requirements for our campuses with their local criminal justice agencies, the UL system will be offering training opportunities for those entities. The first of the trainings will be held at Louisiana Tech on Wednesday, June 27th. The training titled Title IX, Gen Z and Power-Based Violence will be provided by Monica Taylor from the Attorney General's Office. A huge thanks to Dr. Geis and his team for hosting this training. I will keep you updated on future training sessions in the area of power-based violence and Title IX. So now not that Title IX is not one of my favorite parts of my jobs, but what I really enjoy is working with our students. And so, as you may be aware, we have a new slate of SGA presidents. We are excited about this exceptional group of leaders. And so I want to quickly highlight the University of Louisiana System's 2023 to 2024 Student Advisory Council. Of course, we have Ms. Bailey Willis serving as our student board member, who was formally sworn in earlier. We have Mr. Sam Gill of McNeese State University serving as the student board member for the Board of Regents. The Student Advisory Council Chair is Colby Hebert of University of Louisiana at Lafayette. You may remember him as he was an intern in our office working with Ms. Candy Geisman. The Vice Chair for the Student Advisory Council is Mr. David Hernandez of University of Louisiana at Monroe. Our Service Learning Coordinator and Civic Engagement Coordinator for this group is Ms. Lacey Johnson from Southeastern Louisiana University. Grambling State University's SGA President is Ms. Alexa Johnson, who is serving on the state's HBCU Advisory Council. Jax Battle of Nicholls State University is the Vice Chair of the Council of Student Body Presidents. Additional members of the Student Advisory Council are Connor Smith of Louisiana Tech University and Brendan Mott of University of New Orleans, who some of you may have met as he is on the Presidential Search Committee for UNO. Again, we are excited about our new slate of leaders, and I'm confident that they will represent their campuses very well. And hopefully you will have an opportunity to meet these individuals in the near future. Thank you, Dr. Henderson. This is all that I have.
Thank you, Dr. Calais. Erica also has a full-time job, in case you didn't know that. But we deeply appreciate your leadership. As you know, we have the Black Male Summit occurring in this building as we speak. Yesterday was just a remarkable day. I finally came down from Cloud 9 after interviewing Tyron Matthew, the honey badger, and sharing a stage with him and listening to his inspirational story. And then the day just continued to advance from there. One of the highlights yesterday was the receipt of a $50,000 donation to the University of Louisiana System Foundation from the AT&T Foundation. The dollars will be used to support efforts that close the digital divide for underserved parents, caregivers, and senior citizens across Louisiana. David Aubrey and AT&T have been longtime friends of our system and higher education as a whole, and we're deeply grateful for their continued support and partnership. Now, Cami provided an update and gave you a sneak peek on the Maritime Academy. Next month, we will host a ceremonial bill signing with Governor Edwards and have a reception to celebrate the Universities of Louisiana Maritime Academy. This is a huge step towards our ability to appropriately serve an industry that has long been one of the state's most vital economic drivers. We're excited to build out the academy, and we'll make sure you're aware of the event next month once it is set. The potential for this academy to transform the state of Louisiana, the economy that we serve forever, is immense. And I'm deeply appreciative of Dr. Khan, Cami Geisman, all who have been involved in the planning sessions around this from our campuses. This is truly a systemic effort, and this is an initiative you should be quite proud of. Madam Chair, that concludes my report.
Thank you so much, Dr. Henderson. We'll now move into the board chair's report. As an FYI, Bruce Janae has scheduled a live ethics training at our October 26th board meeting at the Claiborne Building. The session will begin at 9 a.m. So make sure that you plan to arrive on time, as you must be present for the entire session to receive credit. It will be held in room 153 on the first floor. For those who cannot attend the live ethics session, Bruce has sent each of you a link to take the ethics training online, as well as the preventing sexual harassment training. Both of these courses must be completed no later than December 31st. At this time, our next agenda item is the presidential evaluation and planning session. That item requires that we enter into executive session. So the Board of Supervisors for the University of Louisiana System may meet in executive session to discuss personnel matters under the provisions of Louisiana Revised Statute 42:17. While in executive session, the board may not make any motions or take any votes. May I have a motion and a second to go into executive session?
Madam Chair, I think we have to maybe recess for a brief moment.
Okay, at this time, we'll recess. Do we need a motion for recess? No.
We could have the committee, we can have the board stand at ease.
Okay, at this time, the board will stand at ease. Stevens. Carol, may I have a roll call vote?
Dr. John Condos,
Yes.
Ms. Joe Leatherman.
Yes.
Mr. Al Perkins,
Yes.
Mr. Dana Peterson,
Yes.
Ms. Elizabeth Pierre,
Yes.
Mr. Virgil Robinson, Mr. Mark Romero,
Yes.
Mr. Brad Stevens.
Yes.
Ms. Bailey Willis. It's unanimous.
Thank you, Carol. We'll now move down to the Claiborne,
The Cambridge.
the Cambridge room. I'm sorry, just down the hall to the left.
Yeah, this way down there.
Make sure it comes back. I think I'm gonna need everybody to come back. It shouldn't be long. It shouldn't be that.